right, it's that time. The Town of James Island regular town council meeting is hereby called to order. The first item on our agenda is public comment. Ashley, do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do. Sorry for my delay. I'm making sure everything's getting recorded and up on YouTube Live. Let's see. First person we have signed up to speak is Dr. Gretchen Bowles. Let's see. Hi, Ms. Bowles.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank you. You have the floor.
Well, great. I just wanted to introduce myself first. My name is Dr. Gretchen Bowles. I'm the new band director at the James Island Charter High School. And I'm here tonight to speak with you about our application for the James Island Community Assistance Grant. We have been privileged to receive the funds from the grant for the past few years, and the monies have been a fundamental part of the growth of our program. The students have benefited directly from your generosity, with monies going towards bringing in professional musicians from the CSO to work with our students and allowing for students to take field trips to see groups like the CSO or the Charleston Jazz Orchestra, or even in the past year, the United States President's Own Marine Band. We have made a commitment to give back to our community through music. In the past year, our students have performed multiple times for various events around James Island, including the Publix grand opening, the new James Island Library ribbon cutting ceremony, the Stiles Point Elementary Fall Festival, the Folly Beach Parade, the Town of James Island Christmas tree lighting, and I could go on with all the things that they've told me about over the years. But also in many cases, these have been voluntary, and some students sign up on their own to do these events, which for me teaches them to give back to their community. It teaches them, how important community is for what we do. Though COVID has put a temporary stop to most everything we do, we are finding new ways to grow through our music in spite of the difficulties of not being able to perform like we normally do. And we are still committed to giving back to James Island, the community. One of the things that is, for me, that I've seen, and I've taught here in Charleston for 20 years, so I've seen the James Island program grow over the years, and I'm very excited to be a part of this program now. And we have been growing so much and have been very lucky to be able to keep up with the instrument intake and making sure that all kids have instruments. But one of the things that will really start to set a band apart is some of the specialty instruments that you don't normally see from what, you see clarinets and trumpets and trombones, but there's a lot of specialty instruments that we want to get. And the funds that we can get from this grant can go a long way in helping expand the musical exposure that our children have through purchasing an English horn or an E-flat clarinet, which are, they're right at the point in time of being able to play literature that needs these instruments. And your help will go a huge way in allowing us to be able to play the kind of music that they deserve to be able to play. So. But I did want to also just introduce myself because I hope to be around for a long time, and hopefully we'll get to meet each and every one of you over the years. So thank you for allowing me to speak for a brief minute.
Thank you, Dr. Bowles. Next, we have Miss Ashley Mulkey, who has signed up to speak. Okay, Miss Mulkey, you have the floor. Ms. Mulkey, are you able to speak?
She seems to be muted.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry, I was having a little bit of difficulty unmuting. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you again for having us. We really appreciate Ocean View Road really appreciates the opportunity to come in front of y'all for the traffic safety calming. As you know, this has been a big concern for many of us on the road, and we feel like this is a big step towards getting our streets in a safer position for our families, certainly our children. And we just really appreciate y'all looking at lowering the speed limit. We would love to see this as a first step. Hopefully, when the speed limit is lowered, we also could see one of the signs that were discussed at the last meeting, which actually tells you the speed limit that you're going, so that if the speed limit's lowered, it's observed and everyone notices the change. So I know that many folks couldn't attend the meeting tonight, so I said that I would come just to represent really the bunch that was at the last meeting, and I know several were going to email in favor of lowering the speed limit, again, as a first step to the traffic safety. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Miss Lee Oland, who has signed up to speak. Okay, Lee, you have the floor.
Hey, Ashley, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lee Olamp from Ocean View Road, and I'm the representative for the road. And we are very thankful that we're up on the agenda tonight to vote for lowering the speed limit, and everybody's excited about it. And we hope that y'all will see fit to approve it. And if it does get approved, we would love to see if we could get, as we discussed in the neighborhood meeting and in the meeting we had last week, about getting a counter done where it tells the people how fast they're going, and they'll see it flashing like there used to be on Dills Bluff Road when that speed limit got changed. So everybody's made more aware of it. And we are just thankful for this opportunity, and we hope y'all see fit to approve this for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who is attending the meeting tonight who wishes to address council? If so, if you could use the raise your hand function. Okay, I have Miss Ashley Johnson. Okay, Miss Johnson.
Evan Johnson, and I'm a resident here on Ocean View Road and have lived here all my life. And my house is on the corner of Ocean View and Trenum. And over the years, we have seen people increase in their speed limit going up and down the street. It is a straightaway until you get to the end and it turns to the left. And there are a lot of rental houses on this street, and people come here and they pass on the street by my house, going at least 45 to 60 miles an hour sometimes. And it's just unbelievable. We've had numerous police officers sit out here within the last couple of days. I have seen them give tickets. And I know at one time people have been talking about speed bumps, or at least before that happens, put up a sign and reduce the speed limit to 25 instead of 30. And maybe this would help with awareness, that we're serious, that we want everybody to slow down and, take precautions. And I really do appreciate you guys listening to us. It just seems to be getting worse. And we just got to do something about it, because we have a lot of children on the street, and especially with COVID, they're outside playing with their parents, and people are trying to get outside and walk with their kids with their bicycles and tricycles and things like that. So whatever you can do to help us, we sure do appreciate it. And we appreciate you listening to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address town council tonight? Okay, Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ashley. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, and this is to approve the minutes of September 17th and October 1st. Is there a motion in favor?
So moved.
So moved.
Well, so I guess we have a motion and 2 seconds. So I'll call, Troy made the motion and I'll call the second for Councilman Milliken. All right, so any additions or corrections? Hearing none, would you please call the roll, Francis?
Yes. Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Mullinax,
Yes.
and Mayor Woolsey.
Yes. And I forgot to go through the procedure of calling the roll at the beginning of the meeting. I guess we need to put that on the agenda so I'll remember. But we'll count that as successfully calling the roll. Everyone's here. Okay, next we have information reports and we have the finance report.
Okay, just a couple of things. The lost is July and August. The increase in postage is the newsletter or a portion of the newsletter. If you look down under bank charges payroll, there's a negative number. That's a credit from the previous month from Intuit Desktop. If you turn a few pages over to under Parks and Recreation, Pinckney Park, the $1,300 are for security cameras.
I'm so sorry, Meryl, can you slow down just a little teeny tiny bit?
Okay, where would you like for me to go?
I just need you to talk a little slower. I'm having a hard time keeping up.
Okay, do you want me to go back and repeat?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, Pinckney Park under Parks and Recreation are for security cameras. Under projects, under James Island Arts and Cultural Center, the $2,200, $20,000 of that is for furniture. I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the finance clerk? Hearing none. Thank you, Meryl. Thank you, Meryl. Okay, next we'll go to the administrator's report. Ashley?
Yeah, Councilman Bowles, do you have your hand up? No. Okay, you're
Yes,
good.
ma'am. I was going to ask if we could bump, I was going to make a quick motion if we could bump Sergeant James to next. I know he's at a wedding and he's sitting in his car right now waiting to give his report, if nobody minds. Go ahead and dispense with his public safety report.
If there's no objection, we can hear Sergeant James' report. And hearing no objection, Sergeant James, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I'm sorry they did a wedding on a Thursday night. I wasn't prepared to be on a Thursday night. Couple things, stats. I won't go over all the specific stats, but we've definitely been on Ocean View quite a bit. I talked to Miss Olant, if I pronounced that correctly, earlier. Around October 6th, actually the night of the 7th, we had a male that we believe was probably attempting to break into cars and actually had gotten into some. They actually were able to detain the subject, but at that point we didn't have any video. He wouldn't admit anything, and unfortunately, we didn't have enough to make an arrest. We didn't have any items that he had on him, and so we're still working that case. We got a sweatshirt that actually had some sweat, so DNA. We sent that off to SLED for DNA testing, and we have a heavy presence over there on Ocean View. In reference to other parts of James Island, last night we had City of Charleston had an armed robbery to the Taco Bell on Folly Road. And there was 2 suspects. They're tying some loose ends up on that, and I think that's going to be solved very quickly. And so after talking to the detective today, we've also had some shots fired at vehicles, Highway 30, gas station at Fort Johnson Road last night. This is 2 sets of individuals, we believe, that are shooting at each other, and no one has been hit. So we know who one set of individuals is, and I think we know one of the other individuals, but unfortunately right now, no one is claiming to be a victim. And so we're kind of cleaning up some of the things that happened. So I will keep you advised on that. Other than that, everything else, car break-ins stuff have gone down. We've got our main guy that breaks into all the cars. He's actually in jail right now. And so we've been trying to still clean up some of, like I said, some of the other things that are going on. But Ocean View definitely been making a lot of stops over there. There's 2 deputies working tonight, and they're actually over there, going to be sitting over there for about an hour tonight. They're going to stagger their times this evening as well.
All right, well, thank you. Are there any questions for Sergeant James? Hearing none, thank you so much for your report.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks.
Let's go to the administrator's report. Ashley?
Yes, thank you. First, I wanted to mention that our partnership with Datamax has really paid off. So far we've received about $16,000 in collections from businesses that we otherwise would not have received from. These are things like Hallmark, for example, that has that does cards and Walgreens. You wouldn't have thought about that being a separate business, but it is. And so things like that that really kind of get caught, that fly under the radar. That's what Datamax does. And already about 11,000 outstanding that we're still supposed to receive in by the end of this year. In addition to that, these are businesses that will continue to now renew every year. So that's a good long-term gain for the town. We had our new auditing firm, Love Bailey. They were in the office like last week of September. Meryl did an outstanding job getting everything ready for them and doing a lot of those accruals on her own and really helped. That process went very smoothly, and they'll be issuing their financial statement to us at our November council meeting. I've attached the latest Dominion tree report. You'll see that in the packet. We did process our first reimbursement to FEMA on the hazard mitigation property. So we, in the process of receiving roughly $330,000 back from that. The forms for Jumpstart James Island, the small business loan program, those are available, working right now through the process with the Low Country Community Development Bank on the MOU between our 2 organizations. I have continued to try to publicize that and actually put it out in an email list to some of the businesses that we have. Also, let's see, not too much else to report. That's all I have.
Any questions for the town administrator? Yeah, Councilman Milliken.
Yes, I had a look at some of the trees that our arborist included with respect to his tree report from the Dominion tree trimming. And I have to say, it's absolutely ghastly what's happening to the trees on our island. And I just want to know what can be done now. It seems we have an agreement that's not being abided by, yet Dominion continues to hack trees in opposition to what we've specified and what our arborist would like to see them do. I just wonder what our recourse is, because this shouldn't continue. The pictures are horrible.
We do, we have Bo Wilson, our town attorney, on the line tonight, and we can, if council wishes, certainly choose to go in executive session to, discuss our contract with Dominion in more detail.
Will we be doing that towards the end of the meeting if everybody approves that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All right, thank you, Ashley. Did you want to speak about the annual department report, or was that?
think,
just for our knowledge.
I think Councilwoman Mignano has a question.
I apologize.
I do.
Councilwoman Mignano.
My question is, I was looking at your administrative notes and I had a question about the technical subcommittee for the water quality task force. If you could go into that a little bit.
Yes, sure. So the Water Quality Task Force that is overseeing the TMDL for James Allen Creek, I'm currently, I guess, chairing that along with other staff with the city and the county and here at the town. And so what we're tasked with doing is, presenting to the full task force the MOU for a call share with the city and the county on the testing, the water testing, and also a scope of services on what that would look like and any where the testing sites would be. So on that subcommittee, we also have Andrew Wonderly with the Charleston Waterkeepers, folks with DNR, and looking at those places where the additional testing sites can be. The next meeting for that is, I believe, coming up towards the end of this month. We should have something as far as an MOU prepared to present to council in November.
You could let me know when that meeting is later this month. That'd be great.
Yes.
Yes, and I would appreciate knowing as well. Also, I was wondering, how was it decided who is on that committee? How did those appointments take place?
I'm not sure from the elected officials standpoint. I think all the staff the staff that's basically working it is just sort of helping facilitate it. Mayor, not sure if the mayor remembers how the elected officials were appointed to that group.
Mayor Tappenberg basically set the group up, and this technical subcommittee that she's speaking about was primarily set up by a matter of volunteers, that people on the larger committee were asked to choose which subcommittee they wanted to be on, and that was one of the subcommittees. And so different people volunteered to be on that committee. That's how that committee was selected. And
okay, thank you. I was just wondering, I'm chair of the Environment and Beautification Committee, and I would be happy to participate in this worthy cause.
so, yeah, I understand. But I do, want to make it clear that this is not a town committee. And right. So I guess you could volunteer your services to Mayor Tecklenburg, I suppose.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Next, we will go, so there was nothing about the annual report, that's just for distribution, and we'll go to
yeah, certainly. So this annual report, this is not only an overview of the past year as far as budget and expenditures, organizational chart, those type things, but also each department. I think it's a really good exercise. Everyone kind of goes through and sets goals. And it's a kind of a good time for all of us to evaluate, what we achieved in the past year. What goals do we have outstanding? And then it really it's a good yearbook for the town to see what projects have been done. And thanks to Frances, she's always compiles that and helps wrangle all of those from everyone and does a good job on that.
Thank you. Any questions about the annual report?
Do we know when that's going to be put together?
It was attached in the packet. And I think I've already got it on the website. We house all of them on the website in previous years. And it's certainly, if you see anything, we do have just a brief little, description for each committee. So if there's anything you would like to add to any of the committees you chair, please let me know, and I'll be happy to make those changes.
Thank you.
I just want to say that the report was quite well done, and it made me tired looking at it.
All right, any other questions? All right, so thank you, Ashley. Now let's go to the Public Works report, Mark.
Yes, good evening, everyone. In September, there were 15 new requests for service. 14 were drainage related. Staff has responded to all of those requests. Staff participated in the third quarter virtual SCASM meeting. Staff took the First Baptist Church Leadership Committee on a tour of the Dills Bluff sidewalk project, and they were very happy with it. And one of the changes that they suggested and approved was removing the chain link fence. If you go by Town Hall, you'll now see that it's just the railing that we have. It's much easier to maintain the landscaping around there, and everybody seems to be happy with that. Monthly stormwater managers meeting was held by teleconference. Staff participated in meetings of the technical subcommittee and citizens engagement subcommittee of the James Island Creek Water Quality Task Force. Staff participated in virtual class on resiliency that the College of Charleston Graduate School is giving. And this is for the students. They're asking stormwater professionals a series of questions and gathering data for a project they're working on. Blue Tide Construction installed the new sidewalk on Dills Bluff Road from Town Hall to Camp Road, and staff cleaned 10 signs in September and installed 2 new stop signs and 8 new street name signs. We also filled 4 potholes with 4 bags of material. I'd also like to mention, this is not on there, just had a meeting today with representatives from DOT on Dills Bluff Road. They will be closing off Dills Bluff Road the weekend of October 24th to replace the failed 36-inch corrugated metal pipe and install a new 36-inch reinforced concrete pipe, plus an additional 48-inch reinforced concrete pipe on Dills Bluff Road by the boardwalk. You'll notice the steel plate there and everything. That'll be closed off for that weekend, tides permitting, and that they can get all the information on depths of utilities. There's a lot of utilities that run through there. Anyway, that is something that we have really been trying to get DOT to do. It would have cost the town quite a large sum of money to do, and to have DOT just pay for it and do it is fantastic. I just would like to thank all of y'all for supporting this, and Senator Sen, Representative Wetmore, Councilwoman Honeycutt, and Councilwoman Jackson. All of y'all have been really fantastic in getting this done. I'd also like to mention that we've got emergency repairs going on at Peregrine and Bob White due to a sinkhole that got much bigger. There's a pipe failure there. That entire neighborhood has the corrugated metal pipe. It's over 50 years old. It is failing. This is the 3rd time that we've had to fix something in there, and we're working on a plan to fix all of it. But right now, that has to be done as soon as possible. So that's my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the Public Works Director?
Yes, I have a question. Mark, did we hire a new Public Works employee at the town?
No, we have not.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Thank you. I'm thrilled to hear that they're replacing the pipe at Dills Bluff. Is that going to impact that one drain? Is there any way that connects to that? Do you know what I'm talking about? The grate that's been a problem. I think it's close to Williams Road. I don't know if these pipes that have failed on Dills Bluff Road have anything to do with that. I know I brought it up. We talked about it before. There was a gentleman.
Yes. I know which one you're talking about. That was not discussed today. There has been discussed discussion with the resident maintenance engineer at DOT about doing that concurrently, since they will have to have a detour in place for what they're doing on Dills Bluff Road. But this was not mentioned at the meeting today. So I honestly, I don't know. I would think not.
It would be great if we could, but
Any further questions? Well, hearing none, thank you, Mark. So we already did the Island Sheriff's Patrol report. And so our next item on the agenda, we move to request for approval. And so we have requests to lower the speed limit from 30 to 25 on Ocean View Road. Would you briefly speak to that, Ashley?
Yeah, so this, all started back in the summer of 2019. The town neighborhood representative who was on the call tonight, or the meeting tonight, submitted a, one of our program applications in a petition. In her petition, it was signed by, I've got the numbers here, 71 residents, and 70 of them, almost all of them, supported reducing the speed limit. 45 said yes to speed humps, 22 said no to speed humps. And that's sort of when council, discussed back in March, it was the March council meeting, moving forward with some traffic calming efforts here. And Mark put the counter out and we got some data shortly after everything was shut down. So the data is a little skewed. But really the public meeting that we've been planning on having for Ocean View was significantly delayed due to COVID. And speaking with the neighborhood representatives, they wanted to move that forward. And we did, and we actually had a really good attendance. It was a hybrid, virtual, and in-person meeting. We talked a lot about, various options. And really, I think the overall takeaway on a staff level was that, the best first step is really trying to move forward with reducing the speed limit, requesting that to DOT, and then, reevaluating the need to pursue any further engineering work for the possibility of additional speed humps, given more data that we can have after we get a decision from DOT regarding the speed limit.
All right, is there a motion in favor of lowering the speed limit?
I so move.
Okay, so Councilwoman Magnano made a motion in favor, and Councilman Mullinex will count yours as a second. Any discussion? Hearing
I have
none.
a question.
Yes?
I have a question.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can I apologize to Mark and Ashley because if they answered this already? I emailed asking also if it was possible to put one of those speed measuring signs on Ocean View. And I remember being told if it's a DOT road, we could not put one back there. I wanted to just double check while we're all here on the possibility of having that as well.
Thank you. Mark, could you please clarify that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. We have placed our radar sign on DOT roads before, and they really do not like that. They have politely told us to remove it or will be removed for us. So there's that.
Do we have to just ask, so when we ask permission, they say no?
Well, we don't ask permission. We have been putting it up. If we
Mark, if we ask permission, will they say no, or might they allow us to put it on there?
We'd have to get an encroachment permit. They possibly would say yes. The other point that I wanted to make was that it has to go on a sign that has a legal speed limit sign. It has to be, the black and white sign that says speed limit 25 or 30 or whatever. Those are located in places where you wouldn't get any speeding. They're close to the entrance and close to the other end of Ocean View Road, so people really can't get up to speed. This counter and radar device needs to be where people would be at speed. So it needs to be in the middle. So there's that problem. You really wouldn't have much effect.
So Mark, that point would be that we would have to get another speed limit sign placed in the middle where people are speeding. And if we did that and DOT gave us permission, if we asked for an encroachment permit to put the radar sign, then we could. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Perhaps I misunderstood this, and I'm probably heard it secondhand, but it was my impression that DOT was very open to allowing us to put the radar sign on their roads. They just did not allow us to put them without their permission.
They need to have, we need to get permission from them. It's basically what it is. And, but it also has to be placed in the proper spot. Basically, they don't like those signs. They like more permanent signage like that. So a permanent radar sign is all right. I believe we got permitted for that on Fort Johnson.
We haven't gotten permitted yet for that. However, this is at the intersection of Fort Johnson and Lighthouse Point. And, we did get funding from CTC to do this. And so we're in the process of looking for these and installing them. They, expressed that they would be very open to placing one of those there at the intersection because of the crash data that we have. So, they don't like to put them, I believe, on residential streets. However, I think this is something that we could look at, and it's certainly something that we can explore and try to get permitted there. I think
the answer to the question is we'll pursue this. All right. Any other further questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
How long is this street? How long is Ocean View? Like you said, there's a stoplight or there's a stop sign at the beginning and then at the end. Like how long would the middle be to get to the middle?
There's Ocean View is a straight road. And my house is right smack in the middle.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. This is not public comment time.
Actually, Ocean View Road is 0.6 of a mile long. It is a straight run. So, 1/3 of a mile in would be where you would want to put it.
Okay, I just was curious because, perhaps that could make it easier for them to approve a stop sign in the middle, since that's where all the issues tend to be.
Councilman Mignano, it's not a stop sign, it's a speed limit sign.
Forgive me, a speed limit sign.
Yes, ma'am. They would almost certainly refuse to put a stop sign there. But maybe a speed limit sign will be okay. We hope. Any further questions?
One more question for Mark
Yes.
is what, or maybe for anyone who would know the answer. There's also the speed measuring device. Is that attached to the digital display sign, or is it separate such that we could set up in the middle of the road? It's like, I think it's those two little strips, the cars run over and it measures the time between it. Do we have that, and is it separate from the electronic side that we were just talking about?
Yes, we do. That data was taken back in the spring. I feel it's not solid data because it's when COVID started and the lockdown started. So we really didn't have the normal traffic that we've had. That's from the counter.
We do have two different ones. So we have one that doesn't have the radar speed sign attached to it, and it collects better data. It gives us more information. But the one that does have the speed feedback sign does calculate some data as well, right, Mark?
Yes, it does. And we can download that from the machine.
are we able to put that counter that doesn't have the sign attached to it on the road without incurring the wrath of DOT?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we just add that counter to the lowering of the speed limit that we're doing right now.
Okay, is there a second to the motion that we put the counter out there? Is that motion that we're going to permanently leave the counter there? Or is that just we are going to retest, so generally we leave the counter out for a week. And then we have a whole list of places where we put the counters. We have a list of neighborhoods that, well, anyway, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so discussion. So we have a single counter, and we use it on a variety of streets where the neighborhood has expressed concern about speeding, and so we put out the counter. And so as I think Mark was not entirely clear, but I thought he expressed. I mean, I'm aware that we were going to put the counter out, and because we believe that the last time we had the counter out in March when the lockdown happened, that we probably did not get as much speeding as normal. And many of the residents in the neighborhood believe that's true. But I personally think that devoting that counter permanently to one location would be a mistake. And I also don't think we need to add the motion that we will put the counter out for a week and on that particular street is necessary to add to a motion to lower the speed limit. So I would urge council to vote down that amendment.
I'm sorry if I sounded like I meant to leave it there permanently. The motion was that we would put it up there within some reasonable amount of time to gather enough data to further assess what's going on with the neighborhood, to show that data to the residents, and maybe help with law enforcement, writing tickets over there or times a day when speed. So I should clarify, I guess. I don't think we should leave it there permanently, just for whatever stretch of time staff thinks is a appropriate amount of time to get good data and then remove it.
And so I certainly have no objection to that. That was going to be done anyway. I'm sorry that Mark did not make that clear when he was giving his remarks.
Yes, we were already planned on doing that.
But we're currently waiting on another part. We had to order something for the counter.
All right. Well, I guess that motion is moot, so I can withdraw it.
There's no objection.
Do you know?
That motion.
Do we know if it would go out there? Because I know some of the folks from their neighborhood are still logged on right now. Do we have any estimate when we can put the counter out?
As soon as I get the part back, I was going to put it out there. I don't know. It was supposed to come in today. It might come in tomorrow, which means that I would put it out on Monday. And like I said, I leave it out for at least a week to gather the appropriate data. And I put it right in the middle of the stretch of road.
All righty. Well, motion withdrawn then.
Okay, if there's no objection, we'll withdraw that amendment. So we're back to discussing the main motion, which is to lower the speed limit to 25. Any further discussion of that?
Yeah, I want to come back to the idea of getting some counts. I think it's a good idea to get some counts before the signage goes up with the speed limit feedback on it. Sort of a pre and post to see the effectiveness of that manipulation. I think it's a good idea to evaluate these things so that moving forward, we'll know whether they work or not. The best way to do that is do a pre and post. So if you get the part for the counter, why not do some counts before we get the permission for the sign? And then once the sign is up, get some counts after as well to see what the effect is pre and post. Just an idea.
That sounds like a great idea. Any further discussion? Well, hearing none, would the town clerk please call the roll? This is voting to lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour on Ocean View Drive.
Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Molinax,
Yes.
Mayor Woolsey.
Yes. Okay, next we'll go to the award of RFP 5/2020 grant writing services. Ashley, could you briefly explain where we are on that?
Yes, so we put an RFP out and really focusing on looking for some grant writers that could help us look for these federal and state funds for drainage improvements, but also in helping with the cultural center, as well as possibly some law enforcement. Councilman Mullinax and Mayor Woolsey, we were all on the committee that reviewed. We had five really great ones, and we all agreed the ones that we were recommending for award: Global Partners, Latham Consulting, Thomas and Hutton. All three seem to have the most experience and really kind of success record in securing the kind of funds that I think we're looking for.
Is there a motion in favor?
I make that motion.
Is there a second? So I'll second it. Any discussion?
Yes, I have some discussion about this. It seems to me that, it was very hard to discern between the three of these because they seem to be specialized in different things. Latham Consultant and Thomas and Hutton seem to be pretty good with the public works aspects of things, but Global Partners, not so much. Global Partners had the advantage in offering a flat rate, but Latham Consulting really didn't have anything about their costs in their packet. So I was kind of left wondering what that would be. Another concern that I had about them were they were far from us. We didn't have anybody local. It seemed that all of these required some travel and perhaps some knowledge of a different state's opportunities in the case of Global Partners being in North Carolina. So I was just kind of hoping that we would get somebody that was maybe a little closer to home, perhaps somebody in town, maybe somebody who's worked in the field of grant writing before, and hire them. But I just was sort of taken aback with the expense of Thomas and Hutton, and didn't really know what the cost was for Latham, and Global Partners did have a flat fee. So I see why you guys on the committee chose that as the most desirable. But again, my feeling is that certainly there must be somebody local who might be able to do this for us. That's all.
Okay. Well, Councilman, I'd like to respond to that. So the proposal is to procure all three. And so the town administrator would work with different ones for different projects where they have special skills. And so that they are specialized in different things. We're not asking to choose one. This is, these are three different ones. And anyway, I don't know, I'll ask the town administrator if she can speak to anything about the fees and cost for Latham, or, the ones that were not.
Yeah, so Latham, they did on their fee schedule include, minor grants they do by the hour. Ones that we would probably work with them on, if awarded, would be standard fee of $3,000. So they do have that flat rate as well. And I guess to kind of, she is up, not in Charleston County. However, she has, certainly done work here. She actually was the only one that hand delivered the proposal. And so I spent a good time speaking with her. Super impressed. She has a lot of contacts at the state, especially Department of Commerce. She's a civil engineer by trade. And so a lot of these hazard mitigation type grants, in the federal grants, the benefit cost analysis is really important and a little more complex than what I can kind of churn out on a weekly basis. So, and to, your concern on the Global Partners, he is, based in Winston-Salem. He's from Columbia. And, in speaking with him, his wheelhouse is really on those cultural type mentoring programs. And so, and thinking about, funding for the James Allen Arts and Cultural Center, thinking that would be a good fit, but also spoke to him about, Latham has received a South Carolina Palmetto grant for some police gear. And then he didn't include in proposal. I did ask him, and he has secured some juvenile justice type grants, kind of in the public safety field. But and then Thomas and Hutton is local. Yeah. So she's in Mount Pleasant. And, they actually had reached out to us about applying for this because they're working, on our asset management project. And also Ocean View Phase 2. They think Ocean View Phase 2 would be an excellent project, that construction, to maybe receive some federal funds for. So, so just a little more background on those three.
Any further questions or discussion?
Yes, I do.
Council? Mignano,
but that was close. We're good.
All right.
So what do you think? I don't know if this is a good question. Like, how many grants do you think each one of these is going to do, like, in a year's time? Like, do you have like a division of labor estimate for them?
I don't yet. I mean, I think the first step would be, I know Latham in particular has sort of a process she goes through with each of her clients, seeing what our needs are, and then seeing, what she feels would best suit, her time and our time. Because it's not just, us paying them and they're going out and writing these grants. It's a lot of back and forth that they're getting the information from us. So it's what information do you have, kind of thing. So I guess short answer is no, I don't have a division of labor yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one idea I had about getting somebody that was a little more close to home was the fact that it would be somebody who might do research on the potential possibilities that are out there. Is it the case that these three that you've identified, will they be doing that, or will they be doing what we ask them to do? In other words, what I'm hoping is that our grant writer would be looking for potential funding sources that we might be able to apply for. In a more active role rather than being passively waiting for us to suggest something. So are they going to be in that role with us?
Absolutely, yes. And I did reach out to, the managers listserv. That's kind of a statewide thing, but also a lot of the local managers that I talk to, a lot here, to see if they have anyone local that they've worked with. And I really didn't get a whole lot of good feedback. I know Latham has worked with some of them. Davis and Floyd, they've partnered with her on some things. I think McClellanville, had someone, but really not really what we were looking for. So I just didn't have a whole lot of success. I certainly did look for that kind of one-man shop locally that could help us out. But I do think all of these are very in tune to, the state and federal resources that, are kind of up for grabs.
I have one quick question. So just to make sure that I'm completely understanding. So these firms would be looking for applicable grants for our town and then coming back to us and saying, hey, look what I found. And at that point, when they write the grant, that's when we would pay them, or we pay them for their research too?
I think before they submit any grant for us and even kind of pursue it, we kind of decide, all right, this is a good fit for y'all. This is a good fit for us. Let's go after it. I think that's when we would approve any kind of, scope and fee for that. And so certainly, yeah, especially if it was $3,000, be coming back to you all. So.
No, I'm sorry. I don't think I was clear. And I apologize. So they would be looking for grants that would be good for our town, or we as the town would be coming to them and say, we want a grant for this?
Well, I think it's both. I mean, I already know of one that's opening up the end of this month that we need to go after, but they're also very well aware of it. So, I think it's more of, them trying to feel out what projects do we have, how far along are they good grant requests? They know what makes a successful grant request and what doesn't. What kind of matching funds do you have? Is it construction ready, or are you just looking for some, funding to help the planning? And so all that is, I think, just a lot of back and forth process with them. I'm not sure if I answered your question. You're welcome.
No, you did. You did answer my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Well, hearing none, then I guess it's time to vote. Town clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Mullinax,
Yes.
Mayor Woolsey.
Yes. So that passes. The next item on the agenda is the James Island Arts and Cultural Center HVAC options. Would you please explain that a bit, Ashley?
Yeah, and so we have representatives with Leolio and also Lockridge Construction. So let me just get them on here real quick. Hey, Jennifer, do you want to start with an overview for us?
Yes, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us back this month. When we came before you last month, it was to present an update on the bids that were received for the Arts and Cultural Center. Probably going back a year ago now, when we conducted the initial assessment of this, one of the things that was noted is that the HVAC system was past its end of life. It dated back to 1995 and was in bad condition. And we estimated, at least $200,000 to do a full system replacement of the whole system and ductwork and all the bells and whistles. And at the time, the project was decided to move forward with just the interior renovation of carpet and paint. As we discussed at last month's meeting, since then, the HVAC system appears to have stopped working, and we know the town had some repair folks out to see what they could do about fixing it or doing maintenance, and that they were recommending a new unit. When we opened the bids last month for the interior finishes, the paint and carpet, we were really pleased to get 10 bids, which was a lot of interest, and the low bidder was Lockridge Constructors. And they have been really wonderful to work with. At last month's meeting, y'all approved us to go forward with studying options for HVAC. What can we do to get the system working back? What can we do for the most budget-friendly option to get something up and working? And that we could work with Mr. Lockridge and his company to bring in a mechanical sub and work with our mechanical engineers at RMF Engineering to identify the kinds of systems that might be options, what the sizing, what the engineering would be, and what pricing would be, and bring that all back to you guys tonight. So that was a lot of effort that RMF and Lockridge put in, and James has been really wonderful to work with. He and I have spoken a lot. He's a recently retired lieutenant colonel from the Army, and his business is a local service-disabled veteran-owned business, and he has just put everything heart and soul into helping get ready to do this project. He's really eager to work with you all, as I'm sure you'll be able to tell tonight. RMF put together 3 system options that they thought would work best for this facility, sized on the use, but we felt that one of them had several drawbacks. and the other two had viable options and how they were going to be installed. And Mr. Lockridge put together a PowerPoint to show you guys the differences and the pros and cons in each of these, as well as the full cost to do them. So he worked with a mechanical sub. So the costs you'll see are the mechanical sub costs, as well as the other work that's required by it, from the electrical contracting to roofing and other repairs. In general, I'll say that the three options, what you have today is a split system where there's an air handler that's inside this little hatch. It's above the ceiling. You can't get to it from below, but it sits on the roof, but then another roof was put on top of it. So it's very difficult to get to and work on. And then it has a condenser outside on the ground. It's most similar to what you would see at your house. This is a 20-ton system there today. It is not able to do dehumidification, and it is not able to provide fresh air that's needed. So a new system going in to meet code would need to provide more fresh air and do more conditioning. And so it would be most appropriately sized as 25 tons. So the next option was a packaged unit where it's all in one big piece of mechanical equipment rather than two components. And that's a packaged unit that's 25 tons. And it could sit on the roof or on the ground. And so we'll walk you through the pros and cons of that, which some of which I can imagine. You can imagine if you put a big heavy unit on the roof, you might have to do structural upgrades and it's harder to maintain. If you put it on the ground, those issues are alleviated, but then you do have to run ductwork up to get back into the building. So I will turn it over to James, and I'm sure there'll be some questions and discussions back and forth, and we can go from there.
Hey, this is James Lockridge. You guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Mayor Woolsey and Councilwoman and Councilman, thank you so much for the opportunity tonight. As Jennifer alluded to, I just retired from the Army last year. I'm an engineer by trade. In fact, I graduated in 1996 from the Citadel with a degree in civil engineering. And Mayor Woolsey, I think I had a class with you for economics my senior year, but I'm not positive for that. But I'm super excited to be working in James Island. My daughter actually is enrolled at James Island High School. So a chance to get down there and work with you guys is something that I'm eager to do. And thank you so much already for the opportunity just to do the renovation work. I greatly appreciate it. What we're looking at today, and I have my AC sub, who is part of Climate Makers, which is a local Charleston business as well. They're on the line tonight. If we need to get some very technical questions answered, we have them available too to answer anything that I can't answer as well. But if you have the presentation in front of you, and Jennifer, I'll pause for a second. Should we share that, or does everybody have a copy of the presentation already?
I think it'd be helpful if you could share the screen.
Okay. I'm gonna do that now.
James, do you want to share yours, or you want me to share the copy I have?
If you have it, that would be easier. Yes, ma'am.
I
That
do.
way I can stay in contact, right? And I
think one of the prices may be a little outdated, but you can.
I'll make sure I do that. I'm sorry, I'm starting my video here too, if that's okay.
All right. Give me just 1 second and I'll share that presentation.
Okay. So while she's doing that, I'm also, like I said, I'm also a degreed engineer. We're a new company, but personally, I've been working on millions of dollars of work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as an Army Lieutenant Colonel, and done projects all throughout the world. And again, excited to be here to do something locally and to get my company started. So thank you very much for the opportunity. But if the slides are up, I will get started. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, we are going to talk about three options that Jennifer talked about.
On this slide, I like that photo you can see in the middle on the bottom. That's inside this little green space where you currently have to get to the unit.
Check.
Right here.
Yes, that's correct. That bottom middle slide, you can see how tight that space is underneath the roof covering right above it. So when you hop in there, there's actually two hatches. And the only reason there's two hatches is because you can't get to you cannot actually go around the unit once you get in there. You have to come back out, go inside the other hatch to get to the left side of the unit to do any kind of maintenance. The space is incredibly tight. So what we see here is the very first option. So I would tell you, if you were building this building in 2020, this is what you would do. You would buy a roof-mounted 25-ton unit, and you would put it in the place that you see now, just like it shows. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, we're starting on the high end, and we're going low on the prices. So what we're looking at here is a bottom line up front, a $93,000 price tag. But there is a potential cost for even more if we have to reinforce the roof. This unit will include a seismic roof curb. And for those who don't know what that is, basically the unit itself sits on another mount, and that mount is seismically rated to meet today's building codes, which wasn't a requirement back in 1977, when the building was first constructed, but we do have to meet today's building codes. But this system is not only the most modern and most efficient, and I think, Raquel, correct me if I'm wrong, potentially we might be able to have a 45% increase in energy efficiency. So that could remarkably reduce your electric bill compared to what you're paying today. And all three of those systems, of course, will give you some efficiencies that are much greater than what you have already. So there is a return on investment calculus that I would encourage you to do. Looking at the efficiencies based on how much you pay for your electric bill, and kind of see, far out on when that return on investment is going to be. I'm not privy to what you pay for your electricity bill today.
And we did, thank you, James. Raquel and I spoke about that today. We thought it would be really great if we could have that number put together, but unfortunately that's a lot more energy modeling than we had data for. And she helped clarify that the 45% number is this unit would use 45% less power than the unit that's there today. So it's not necessarily exactly like your bill would go down by 45%, but the power consumption of the HVAC unit, which is a major part of your energy use, would be less.
Absolutely. Okay, so what I really like about this system too is, we talked about this first to ground, and we'll look about that in the pros and cons in a second, but there's very little ductwork involved in the roof mounted system. And then finally, some of the other intricacies that we had to consider, in the cost wasn't just the unit and the installation of the unit itself. What we have to deal with this roof and this roof covering that's over the air handler unit. So both options 1 and option 3 require us to either option 1 to remove this roof to get the air handler away, so then we can put in the package unit into the well where currently the air handler sits. Or in option 3, we'll show you later, we're going to take off the roof, put a new handler in, and then put a roof back on it because it's an indoor unit, which is the reason why there's a roof on it to begin with. Of course, all these options will require a little bit, especially the package units require more power than currently what's up there now for the air handler. So we'll have to increase the power up there as well. And then, it's on the roof, so we're going to have to provide a crane in order to do some of this work. And there's some demolition work as well. So that all is factored into the cost. If you went out and looked on the internet or try to do some quick math research, that unit itself does not cost $93,000. In fact, I think the materials are closer. Really, we're talking just the AC alone, the materials are closer to about $30,000. So when you include in the work for the roof, the labor for everything else, you're talking about more bonds, more electrical work. Those things start to add up, and eventually you get up to the $93,000 price tag. And I started to lay some of that out this afternoon, and I know you guys wanted some greater clarity on that, which I can definitely keep digging into that and provide some better data and present it in a way that I think everybody makes sense to everybody. If we go to the next slide. Okay, some of the pros and cons. Again, with the package unit for both options 1 and option 2, that you're not going to see in option 3. Option 1, option 2, the package unit, you can control the humidity. And
biggest thing.
Right. And so with option 3, which is an AC unit, inherently AC, the business of running an AC, does take some humidity out of the air. But with that unit in particular, just like your home unit, you can't put on there, I only want 10% humidity in my house, unless you paid a lot of money for a really fancy unit, which most of us don't have. But you can do that with options 1 and 2, with the package unit. And I think that's important if you're going to do an art gallery at the end of the day. So you have to, that's something to consider here as well. Is that important? We think it is, based on what you want to do with the facility, but that's something you can do with these air handler units. The other thing is that it's a little bit challenging for this unit, and again with option 3 as well. Some of the cons I'll talk about is the maintenance piece of it. So I mean, you can get up there if you got to get in that little crawl space. For option 3, that's going to be tough to do maintenance, and just having to get on a roof to maintain your package unit is going to be tough as well. So what we discovered, we looked at about 20 years, and we did some assumptions on how much it costs to do maintenance for on the ground versus on the roof. And what we discovered, there was about a $12,000 difference over 20 years between option 1 and option 2, with option 2, the ground unit being cheaper, and option 1 being about $12,000 more over a 20-year lifespan to do the maintenance. So when you start looking at that, you can almost say this maybe is worth it. But again, you have to look at the roof reinforcement. You go to the next slide.
And while we're switching, one other
Sure.
thing that we really like about this package unit option is the simplicity to operate. It doesn't have a complex building controls system that's required. When I mentioned that there were several options we looked at initially, one of the ones that we disregarded was because it would require a whole separate controls infrastructure that is complicated and expensive, as well as other electrical things. So this one can operate very simply on kind of like a basic thermostat. So it's more user-friendly, as well as having more control over things like humidity.
Yeah, Jennifer, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Again, this is the modern tech, right? So this is what, again, you would put in if you were building something new today. So here's the ground unit. Now the price is a little bit off. I apologize for showing a lower number. It's actually $83,000 for the cost of the work. What we're looking at here, you can see the blue pad right outside the back of the building. We'll put the 25-ton unit right on the ground there on top of a brand new concrete pad. If you look off, if you can't quite see to the right, but that parking lot ends, there's 3 bollards there. You can't go any further anyway. This really is the end of your usable space to begin with. So you're not really taking away or blocking a road that would encircle it, because nothing actually goes around the side of the building. This unit is $83,000, and the materials are about $5,000 more for this unit than it would be for the other one, because we've got a lot of ductwork to put in here. So we're going to be running the ductwork up the side of the building and then along the roof line. What you don't see, but you can kind of make it out a little bit, is there's a tiered portion of the roof on top of the building that would hide most of the ductwork from being seen from the city, from the side of the street out there. But if you're in the back of the building, you can obviously see it. But for the most part, I think most of this will be hidden pretty well from street side view or from the entrance view as well. Along with the new ductwork, we have things like of course, the smoke alarms, which are inherent in all the options out there. We put smoke alarms inside the ducts to turn the AC system off in case there is a fire. That's something you don't have now. That's something you would have in the ductwork, regardless of the option you pick. And then finally, this option, we have decided to save a little bit of money here by not demolishing the roof structure, the one that houses the air handler unit. So what we're going to try and do is disassemble the air handler unit as much as possible inside, take as much as we can out through those hatches, and then put the rest off to the side, and then bring the new ductwork in for this unit in there and connect into the building. We think that might save you up to $15,000 by not having to go in there and demolish the rooftop area right there. Because once you do that, then you're going to have to do some re-roofing of some sort. While the air handler's been in there, there's been penetrations that have been put in through that floor in there. So if you take that roof off, even if you don't put the roof back on, you're going to have to go back in there and put some rolled roofing inside the well that was there before. You can't get around it at the end of the day. So the only way that we can truly not have or truly save some money here is by going straight through probably one of those access hatches, with some new ductwork, and then connecting into the existing ductwork right there. In the long term, you might have to, I think, if you ever go back and re-roll the roof, it's probably worth at that point to go ahead and take out this extra roofing piece that's up there and go ahead and take the air handler out and then go ahead and roof it all at the same time. But as of right now, I think we can leave the air handler in there and save some money. Next slide. Pros and cons. This one, again, this is your easiest to maintain. So you've got that $12,000 savings built into this option already over what we talked about for the roof. A lot of the pros are very similar to what you saw in the rooftop package. One of the cons that we listed as a pro, but I want to say it as a con as well, is even though we only have one electrical connection, there's no electrical connection where this one's going to go right now. So where the package unit is going to go, we have electricity. Where the split unit is going to go, there's already electricity there. So we're going to have to do a new electrical run for this package unit. And I would actually put that down as a con. And that's why one of the reasons the prices is different than what you saw on the screen and why it went from 75 to 83 is we're going to have to do a new electrical run in order to get this thing powered up if we put it on the concrete pad behind the building. Next slide. Okay, so this is really your least expensive option, and what this does for you is get you back to, where you were in 1977, so to speak. It gets you a new air handler, it gets you a new condenser system. It goes back in the exact same spots where you are before. It provides the same kind of tonnage. It does what the original engineers designed the building to do, and that's to cool the building. There is, again, inherently, there's already dehumidification as part of the process of doing air conditioning, but you can't control it. You can't set it lower than whatever is provided naturally through the AC process. You can with some additions, but that's not in this price. There is still some cost, associated with the crane. There's a lot of costs associated with this roof because now not only are we taking the roof off, but now we got to put the roof back on. That process alone is probably going to run us about $23,000 just to redo that roof section up there and take it off, put it back on. You go to the next slide.
Which of course means once you have to replace this one, you gotta do that same thing again, kind of repeats the cycle.
Yes, 20 years from now, exactly. You're going to rinse and repeat, do the same thing over again. Exactly. The pros and cons of this one, really the pros are obvious. I mean, this is exactly putting back in what you already have. So I get to reuse the concrete pad. You're going to get to reuse your electrical units, your systems. You are replicating whatever was there before. So there's a lot of pros in that. It's the least amount of work. The cons really is, you got to put in a more complex humidification system later on in the future if you want to control humidification. Again, I kind of pose that question back to the council again, how important is that if you're running an art gallery in there? And the really big one, almost a third of the price of this entire project is that roof, taking it off and putting it back on. And then because of where it's going to be in that tiny crawl space, you're going to have higher maintenance fees as well. And the maintenance fees for this one will be very similar for what it was for the rooftop package system. Again, I think the maintenance for this one over 20 years is going to be $12,000 plus more than it would be if we put something, like the package system on the ground. So I put a lot of information out there, and I'm sure there's some questions, so I'll be quiet here and we go to the next slide.
And if I can add one more, and truly, I think you guys get just a little glimpse here into how much work Mr. Lockridge has put into this effort and really pulling all the information together. And we've spent a lot of time talking with Raquel as well about, are we giving you something that you're going to be happy with and that's going to work for you without issues? And our feeling is that we can recommend the package unit. Oh, here's one of my boys. I'm sorry, Mom is in a meeting. You need to get out for a minute. Real life here. The package unit we can recommend. We know it'll work for you. We know it'll meet the needs of the building. The split system unit, the third option, it's great to have something on there that gets as low as possible. But from an engineering side, we don't feel comfortable saying that it would for sure meet all your needs of the space. It's 20 ton, which there's 20 ton there today, but the new code requires more outdoor air. And so dealing with that outdoor air, I guess you could say it takes up some of the unit's capacity. So it has less capacity to deal with the loads inside the building. And humidity, like Mr. Lockridge said, when it's cooling air, that the moisture drops out of the air. But just this past weekend was a great example when it was really, really humid, but it wasn't that hot. It was in the low 70s. You wouldn't be cooling the air. None of that moisture would fall out. Mm-hmm. So again, that may not be a deal breaker for you guys. It may be like fine enough. But, we know that from an operational standpoint, the package unit would be what we'd recommend. But with budget being a concern, we wanted to also have something that's kind of like, what's the least you could do to get something up and running again? And now I have a cat here as well, so I'm sorry.
So I have a question. And I wonder, what would the cost be of adding a dehumidifier to option 3? Do they make such a thing that could plug into the system and perhaps have some control over the humidity in the space?
So we did talk with Raquel about that, and there are, kind of, you see them like you stick it in your basement or somewhere you have a humidity problem. It's not really going to make an effective difference in a 6,000 square foot building where people are there. The option for adding the dehumidification to that system is the unit has to do what's called subcooling, which means it cools the air down colder than you would want it to get all the moisture out. And then it heats it back up so that it's the right temperature. I think 55 degrees is what you want to blow out of into the space. So this system, the split system, you would have to put kind of basically like a downriver electric reheat. And then you'd have to have a DDC control system that ties that downriver electric reheat to the brain of the split system unit. So it can be done. It would add money, but then what would happen is the split system would cool the air more than it would otherwise, drop out the moisture, send it to that downstream reheat to heat it back up. So it does add complexity in operation and some cost. And at that point, you do start to get closer and closer to that packaged unit cost.
It's also going to raise your electric bill as well. And I think you brought that up. You're using a lot more electricity now in trying to do that process as opposed to the package unit, which inherently does it anyway.
So another question, and this goes now to the first one that you talked about that was more energy efficient. I find that appealing. And it also has better humidity control. Am I right? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
And that's the same as option 1 and 2 because it's both the same piece of equipment.
Right.
And it's just whether it's on the roof or the ground.
Right. So this one, is there any idea? I mean, do you have a rough estimate on what it might cost to reinforce the roof to support that unit?
We do not at this time. We wanted to, we ran out of days to get a structural engineer involved. He said that we did do an early consultation with him, and he said it would take calculations to be able to tell us because typically wood frame buildings are not built with a whole lot of extra contingency in them.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be about 4,000 pounds. Oh yeah, that's on the slide. So we assume that it needs to be reinforced. We just don't know to what degree.
All right. Okay.
I have a question. For one, Mr. Lockridge, I'd like to say thank you for your service and thank you for all of the answers that you gave me. I know it was last minute and I was asking a lot of detail.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm sorry I didn't get you more. We can continue to do that too.
No, I appreciate it. So if we did the first one, when you're saying roof mounted, are you saying put it back down in that where the old one is, where those hatches are, or would you just set it directly on top of the roof?
We discussed both because if we set it down, then we kind of can avoid touching the rest of the roof area, but then we have a kind of an obvious bathtub that we would have to deal with water. And architecturally, we'd be worried about that because water is not our friend on the roof. So we also considered filling in the pit with new roof framing and patching in the roof. So basically it would bring that little bathtub pit to be all one level and putting the unit on top of that. I actually have 2 diagrams that I can show if needed to help you guys visualize what that would look like. But Ashley, you would have to stop screen share. So I don't know if that's critical to do for. Are you? Oh no. Okay, I thought I had it all queued up. There we go. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so the one we were just talking about putting on the roof. So this gray flat area is the notion of filling in the roof to make it flat with new framing. And then the unit would just sit on top of that. Or we leave it down in the pit and we have to just address drainage to get the water out of there. And then if the package unit went on the ground, this kind of shows you that it would sit there. And this would be exterior rated ductwork. It's wrapped in metal and it's epoxy, it's designed to be exposed. This happens, this is done a lot of places. It's definitely not the most elegant solution, but it keeps the unit on the ground as far as easier maintenance and not having to get into the building structure. Because the other part of this, as you know, is we're trying to leave all the interior ductwork in place and just tie into it at the point of origin here.
I have a question. Has anyone looked at the interior ductwork to evaluate the health of said ductwork? I'm sorry, did you
Raquel,
guys?
were y'all able
No.
to get into some of it? I think it has to be destructive. You have to kind of pull it down to look inside of it.
Can you hear me?
So
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, this is Raquel Dessler with RMF Engineering. No, during the original study, in order to look within the ductwork, Jennifer is correct. It does need to be taken down in pieces to be inspected. So in order to know if the ductwork is within good standing shape, we would need to either scope it ahead of time or do a pressure test. With any work that we plan on doing, I would recommend at a minimum cleaning the ductwork, which will help at least just air out anything that hasn't been moving around in a while.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, I just want to be clear. So what you're telling me is that we would have to take the ductwork apart to do a pressure test in order to evaluate the health. You can't just put like a camera in there or look at the exterior of the insulation wrapping the ductwork from the...
We can certainly look at the insulation that's wrapping on the exterior of the ductwork, but in order to know if the ductwork inside is in good shape, you would need to put a camera in, but to get to that, you'll need to open the ductwork at some point. We can do this when we remove the old unit. We don't need to take apart the ductwork currently until construction starts.
Thank you. So it's possible that once we start doing this construction and we look inside the ductwork, it's possible that all the ductwork is rusty or nasty and will have to be replaced. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm hoping that it can be just a cleaning with the unit only going down in operation for only a month. You guys are in good shape right now. I would say that if this was an abandoned building for a long time with no air running, then I would highly recommend replacing the ductwork, but we may be able to get away with just cleaning and reusing.
Thank you.
I have a question about Charleston County's role in this. If we're going to sink this amount of revenue into their building, it seems to me that they should have a role in helping us pay for it because it is their building. Have we reached out to Charleston County with any kind of information about what we're planning to do? Because they are our landlords. And it seems that it would be in their best interest to make sure that their building is cared for. Have we done anything of that nature?
Yes, we have. If you recollect, last time this came up, we got them to extend the lease to 10 years because of explaining how much money we plan to spend on it. Now, I don't believe that we've updated them on the HVAC, but I think it's very unlikely that Charleston County is going to contribute any money towards improvements. I believe they think that the $1 a year lease for 10 years is a sufficient contribution. But we can ask them. But And Ashley, you've spoken to them. You can say what's your view or your understanding of the situation with Charleston County.
Well, they knew that HVAC was on its way out. So, and they made very clear in our agreement that they were not going to be responsible for any of these costs. So, you know, and going back to them from a staff level, I kind of feel like I'm, at a staff level, they made it pretty clear to me that they're not going to do anything else. So,
all right. Well, I guess I'd like to make a motion on this, if that's possible. Is that possible to make a motion?
Yes, we do need a motion.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and push forward with the ductwork assessment to make sure that the ductwork is going to work for us, because that would add a difference in cost. And I would also like to ask for an estimate on the structural modifications that would be required for the first option there, putting it on the roof. Because then we will have more information in order to make a good decision.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I have some discussion about this.
Councilwoman,
I'm concerned, and I'm concerned about the cost that we're already putting into a building that we have a 10-year lease for. It's not our building. We have a 10-year lease. Granted, that's $10, but as we're looking here right now, our last quote was $74,800 from Leolo, Jennifer, if that's correct, from last month. And then let's just say we do the middle option for the AC and it's $83,000, and that's if it stays in budget, because sometimes things happen and sometimes you have more things pop up. What if we have to do the ductwork? And that's a lot of money on a building that we don't own. Like if you add this up, that's almost $200,000. That's $20,000 a year for a building that's not ours.
I understand that, but $20,000 a year would be pretty reasonable cost for a building of this sort, I think. And I think there's a very good chance that the lease will be extended for as long as we want. And the chance that the county will take this back and do something with it is slim to none. I would say that, our best information, our best knowledge is why they will not just give it to us, is that if we use it for a library, they will take it back.
Then why can we
That's
still
the
leave that in
problem.
the contract?
I think they would, anyway, I think that they feel some members of council believe that having this lease arrangement gives them more authority along those lines. In any case, in my view, I'm not concerned that in 10 years, the county will say, well, we want to sell the building to a restaurant, or we want to tear it down, or anything like that. That we'll be able to keep it, or that they'll start charging us high rent. Yes, Councilwoman McDonough.
If the reason that they don't want to give us the building is because they're concerned that we would turn it into a library, I'm sure that we could put it in the contract stating that it will never be a library, ever, never in a zillion years.
I think that the county believes that they have already extended the lease at our request from 3 to 10 years, and that perhaps after we have this up and running and have a record of using it as our arts and cultural center, that would be the appropriate time to suggest that they go ahead and transfer ownership. I believe that we'd be more likely to have success in that, and that the people that ultimately will make the decision would be county council. And then who's on county council, or members of county, the same people there that were here in previous conflicts, all of that would make it more likely. If we use it as a cultural center and we improve it, if we show a little trust then we could have something really nice. If we make demands and say, no, we are not going to go forward with this until you do more, until you grant it to us, the most likely result is they'll say, fine, we'll keep it. We'll tear it down. We'll sell it to somebody else. That's my judgment.
Thank you.
So Mayor, is the motion to be considered now?
We're still discussing the motion. I guess that was a little not entirely germane, was it? Anyway, go ahead. Is there any further discussion about the motion, which is to do further research to check out, to scope the ductwork? Is that what was what you had in mind, and also check on the structural, what would be to get the information about what the structural cost would be.
Can I, Jennifer,
Yeah.
Jennifer, you got some costs of how much we would have to pay for the structural. Has council already approved those costs, or would that be additional?
There was in the very, very first assessment package for the building, there was money proposed for structural assessment, but then based on the scope, we ended up not needing it. But that was never used or billed. So if it could fall under that, the structural engineer said he would do, and he's very reasonable, he would do calculations on an hourly basis. And it would be not to exceed 1,500. It doesn't mean that it would cost that much, but those would be his design calculations to understand what reinforcement would be necessary. I will just, for helping the facts out there, since we discussed at the September meeting when the bids were opened, that the bids are required to be, this is the bid for the paint and carpet on the interior finish. Those are required to be good for 60 days. So I believe at least 30 of those days have elapsed. We have prepared the contract. It's been signed by Mr. Lockridge, but not by the town yet, because y'all wanted to wait and hear about what the HVAC options were. But I just wanted to bring that up, that that there's a bit of a clock left on the original bid, the $74,800 for all the interior renovations. And I know that Mr. Lockridge would greatly appreciate it if that contract might be executed so that work could get in the wings. We know it's a big part of a big picture for you all.
I was very concerned about this timing on the contract, that further delay it concerns me. And, actually I lean towards option 2. And so because of concerns about these the structural issues about the roof, and that I believe that option 2 had all the benefits on humidification and just all the benefits from the 25-ton air handler. Isn't that correct?
Yes, Mayor. And option 2 is our recommended option as well. I think I can safely speak for the team because even with the structural upgrades, it's the proverbial sweater. Once you start pulling on a thread, it can tend to unravel quickly.
So, I think that council should make a decision to go forward, and I think we should go with option 2. I think it's as good as option 1. Councilman Milliken, and the things that concerns you most, the energy efficiency, I believe that was correct. And it's much cheaper for maintenance purposes. In some ways, it would be nice to have the air handler out of the way on the roof rather than take up space in our small parcel of property there. But it just seems to be the safest course. That concerns about the possible structural issues, having to strengthen the roof problems, all of those lead me to suggest option 2. And I think we need to move forward and get our contract signed with the contractor. And that's my view.
Mayor, I think we have a motion on the floor. And I also think that I agree with you on a lot of these things. But I think it would be better to have more information, especially regarding the quality of the ductwork that's existing. And I think that's an important element to this that'll also add to cost. I don't think that we necessarily are restricted to having our next meeting in a month. We could have a special meeting in 2 weeks once we have information on these questions. And that might give us better information to make a good decision.
Yes. Is the timeline of, well, anyway, any further discussion of the motion to postpone the decision until we have information on the state of the ductwork and also an estimate of the cost of strengthening the roof? Hearing none, would the town clerk call the roll?
Councilman Bowles,
No.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Mullinex,
Yes.
Mayor Woolsey.
No, so that passes. Is there any further discussion we need or action we need on this issue? Ashley?
I don't believe so. Jennifer, do we think we can get this information maybe pretty quickly and maybe schedule a special meeting?
The one thing that I'm not personally experienced with is the ductwork examining. I don't know if you have to hire someone to do that. Is that you raising your hand? I don't know if there's any cost associated with that.
There is a cost, and I can absolutely get that for you by the end of the week here. But I've been talking with my mechanical sub while we've been doing this. He has 3 cameras designed to do duct inspections, and we could do that as early as next week. So yes, we can do it. We're ready to do it, and I'll get a cost to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lockridge. And I just would like to say, we're not trying to drag our feet and waste your time. This is just a lot of money. And we just feel that we really need to have as much information as we can before we go in, and the next thing you know, it's, tumble after tumble after tumble. So I appreciate your time, and I just wanted you to know that.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you. I really mean that. It's 23 years in the government service. I want everybody to take the time with taxpayer dollars to do it right, and I appreciate the thoroughness that you guys do as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Right. The next item on the agenda then, moving forward, would be the 2020 Community Service Grant Awards. So it's my intention not to participate in the discussion or the voting on this issue because of myself and immediate families' membership on the boards on some of the groups. I will lead the discussion. So would you speak briefly to this, Ashley?
Yes. So our Community Assistant Grant Awards. Actually, I can screen share that spreadsheet if we'd all like to look at it here. I don't know if y'all can see that. But basically, we had pretty much, the same requests that we normally get, a lot of local groups. We did have a few new ones, True Vine Tabernacle, a church here that has been operating a food pantry since COVID. And then Backpack Buddies, another group that has started up since COVID. They started helping supply meals at Harborview Elementary back in March, and now they have expanded to all of the elementary schools on James Island except for Stiles Point. So those are our 2 new ones. But basically my overall recommendation is not to, award all of our money. We do have a budgeted $30,000. I would recommend awarding $25,750 of that to these groups, and then taking part of it, the $77.50 from a pot of money we put in hospitality for promotional grants. Groups like the Seashore Farmers Lodge, for example, and their renovations, that's a draw, as well as the arts that have their art show featuring James Allen artists. And then band backers, only a small part of that, because they do have bring a lot of people in for local tournaments, and they put concerts on at the new performance hall at the high school.
Well, before we go on, is there a motion to accept the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Okay, so we'll, Councilman Mullinex made the motion. I'll count that as a second. Councilman Milliken. Any discussion?
No.
Hearing none, would the town clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Mullinex,
Yes.
and Mayor Woolsey, you abstained.
I've accused myself of not voting yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So that passes. So next we will go to committee reports. And so we have the Land Use Committee, Councilwoman Mignano.
Yes. I need to make a nomination for Planning Commission. Mrs. Kernodle was unable to continue, so I have nominated Mark Maher, M-A-H-E-R. I think, Francis, I've already sent you that information.
You did.
He has already attended or listened in on the last Planning Commission meeting. I think, he's very much looking forward to it. In his words, quote unquote, this is right in his wheelhouse. So he's really excited to take over.
So you should ask for a second.
Second.
And now call for a vote.
Now, can we please have a vote? Francis, will you call the roll?
Yes. Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Mullinex,
Yes.
and Mayor Woolsey.
Yes. Any other items to report, Councilwoman Mignano?
We're working on calling a land use committee meeting. We're still working on the timing, so not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next, Councilman Milliken, Environmental and Beautification Committee.
Yes, James Island Pride will host an Adopt a Highway litter pickup on Saturday, October 24th from 9 to 11. That's Saturday, October 24th from 9 to 11. Everybody meets at Town Hall. We get you vests, gloves, grabbers, and lots of trash bags. We hope to focus on Riverland Drive if we can get some support from our Island Sheriff's Patrol. That would be a road that really needs it. This is also the day that they're going to close Dill's Bluff, so it's going to be a little bit challenging. We're hoping to have a red dumpster delivered to Town Hall to put all the bags in. So that will only be there for 24 hours, we're told, and then it'll be hauled away. So we're going to need to get with Ashley and Mark, I suppose, to figure out a location to put that in the parking lot. This is going to be a social distancing litter pickup, so please bring masks. We're not going to be serving lunch at this pickup. So again, the date is October 24th from 9 to 11. Be there or be circled. That's all my report.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none. I have no report for the Children's Committee. Public Safety Committee, Councilman Mullinex.
All I have to say, I'm not quite sure if we're going to have a meeting this coming next Thursday or not. I haven't had the opportunity to speak with Chairman Quinn yet, Chairman of Neighborhood Council. My feelings are that we will, but I just don't want to say so for sure until I speak with him. If we do, I'll of course notify everyone in a timely manner. We did have a meeting last month though, and it went very well, and we had a good program on the agenda that everyone seemed to enjoy. We had decent attendance, I thought. But that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilman Mullenix? All right, hearing none, thank you so much. Next is the History Committee. Well, the History Committee met, and we are planning on a Revolutionary War event at Fort Johnson on Sunday, November 15th, which I realize is coming up really soon. I don't have a time for the start, but I expect it'll be about 1 o'clock. It'll be in the afternoon. Any questions about the History Committee, History Council? Okay, thank you. Next, Rethink Folly Road. Rethink Folly Road is going to meet on October 28th at 3:30. I expect we'll get a overview on phase 1 of the sidewalk project on Folly Road, and then also there'll be discussion of a Friends of Folly Road, group of the businesses along Folly Road at that meeting. Any questions about Rethink Folly Road? Okay. Next, the Drainage Committee, Councilman Mullenix.
Don't have anything to report now. I know we have a meeting coming up in the near future. I'd have to guess in November sometime. But when I have that precise date, I'll let you all know. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Business Development Committee. Excuse me. Any questions for Councilman Mullenix on the Drainage Committee? Thank you. Business Development Committee, Councilman Bowles.
No report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Tree Advisory Committee, Councilman Milliken.
The Tree Advisory Council met on October 13th. The council approved their design of a canopy tree award that will be given semi-regularly to residents who have cared for beautiful trees. This will be a kind of slick award that has a yard sign, and they'll get a certificate too. We also want to thank Ashley for updating the tree area on the website. The website contains information about town tree policies, as well as important information about the Asian longhorn beetle. The Asian longhorn beetle. The Asian longhorn beetle is invading our hardwood trees, and if you see one, you need to report it at 1-866-702-9938. So the idea here is that we have an area on the website where we could give information about trees and all of the things that affect them, like the Asian longhorn beetle. This will also have resources for identifying trees that are useful for planting in specific locations, as well as trees that would be appropriate for right-of-ways. That's all we have.
All right. Any questions for Councilman Milliken? All right. Thank you very much. James Island Intergovernmental Council, the chair has called a meeting for Wednesday, October 21st at 7 p.m. The agenda should be going out tomorrow, so we should see the agenda. Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is emergency ordinances. And so we have emergency ordinance 7E7-2020, which is our face covering emergency ordinance that's going to expire. And so are there any motions regarding to this ordinance?
Yes, I would move to extend the ordinance to November 19th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I
And does anybody know what's the status with the governor's office and statewide orders right now? Does anybody know?
There is no mandatory mask ordinance statewide. Is that what you're
And what
asking?
about the county? Do you know what about the county?
The county has a mask ordinance very similar to ours that applies only in the unincorporated area, and that is extended until November. I'm not sure exactly the date. It's they're meeting in November.
Do we have the most recent stats? I know last month we talked about, since school was starting back up, comparing numbers between from then to now, and death rate and all of that. Do you have that information, Mayor?
So DHEC, I believe, quit giving that information on a zip code level about 2 months ago. So DHEC quit providing that information. So we no longer have any information, any regular information about James Island. So about 3 weeks ago, we received active cases being 40, but we're no longer getting daily reports on that matter. So they gave daily reports that really didn't come every day, but there was generally a report for every day. And that lasted for several months, and they were reported on our website, but we have not got that information.
So
no, I don't have that information. And we never had information about, residents of James Island who died or information like that.
Yes, the city has extended their mask ordinance into November as well.
I would just like to say, I'm a chiropractor. I see patients in my office all the time. I've seen, I most certainly want everyone to be safe, but I've had patients come in with like huge ulcers around their face from the issues that they're having with masks. I'm not saying that a sore on your face is equal to someone losing their life, but I really would like us to get back to where people could make their decisions for themselves. I think we've all been very diligent with this. I think the numbers have not really gone, crazy since school started. The death rate that's reported for the state is very, very low. And this is even with this, and one death is one death too many, but I really think that, we can't keep up a mask mandate forever.
Any further discussion? I think it's important for people of James Island to understand that our mask ordinance, modeled on Charleston County's mask ordinance, does require that businesses in James Island require patrons, people going into those businesses, to wear masks. And I realize that, especially for employees of town businesses, that this can be burdensome, that they're required to wear masks. If they meet the public, pretty much all day. However, most of us who just patronize businesses and just come in or go into the businesses only are really required to wear masks for a short time. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. And I understand that Councilman Mignano is in the situation of someone who is having to deal with the public all day as part of her job. And she is in the town of James Island. And another thing that's important to understand is that we are making a decision for the businesses in our town jurisdiction, not for James Island as a whole.
I was stating cases that I have seen, not for myself. I'm not saying that I have these issues, but what I have seen are kids with headaches all day that they never had headaches before, people who are having major issues, teeth issues, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just really think that we need to move away from a mandate and let the businesses run it. Our original agreement was that this was not an enforceable ordinance on our part. and we don't have the staff to regulate it, but the businesses can most certainly, state for themselves, what they want to do. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the town clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
No.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Mullinax,
Yes.
Mayor Woolsey.
Yes. All right, so our next item of business is new business, request for reports and public hearing from Councilman Mignano. Councilman Mignano.
Yes, I was requesting the reports regarding the millage information and what our different options that would have been when we were looking at this special millage meeting that we had.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion that council requests a report of staff on options to impose a millage on James Island?
No, what I would like is to make a motion to have these reports so that we would have all of our options put in front of us so we could have more information regarding the millage meeting and the cost sharing and everything else. I thought that that's what we had asked for at the millage meeting itself.
So you have a motion for a report on options for millage and property tax credits?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Yes.
Who are we going to task with doing the report?
I'm sorry, would you please repeat, Councilman Bowles?
Who would we task with gathering the information and writing the report?
It would be a staff responsibility, town. And as a practical matter, I would have to develop most of the report, Ashley would work on it.
I think this is important information for us to have. We talked about all of this millage at the millage meeting. We had absolutely no information at that meeting to make any kind, to understand what it was what we were even talking about. I really think that this is important information. I would like to have median house value. I would like to know when you ask me about either a millage or a percentage or a number at the millage meeting, I would like to know what those are. And I think that requires reports. Ashley's going to be starting on the budget in December. And if with public opinion, if the public were even interested in this, then this is something that we need to know.
Well, so my view is, I don't support this. I think it's a waste of staff time unless the majority of council is serious about making the people of James Island pay a property tax to the town, which they have never done before, to pay a property tax to the town on top of what they already pay the PSD. And if the majority of council thinks that's something we're going to seriously consider, then it's certainly worth developing this information. On the other hand, if we're going to continue with the policy that the first town had, the second town had, the third town had, and this town has had since it was founded in 2012 of not collecting property tax from the people of James Island, then we shouldn't waste our time on it. If the majority of council wants to go forward with this and explore this option, then I would say the majority should vote yes. And if there's a vote in favor, then Ashley and I will develop options and a presentation of different ways we could start collecting taxes from the people of James Island for council to consider. On the other hand, if the majority of council is not really interested in this, then they should vote no, and then we won't waste our time.
Mayor, I have a comment. I'd like to make a comment. I don't think there's any harm in understanding the basic mechanics of what we were asked to do last week. I still don't understand the components that go into the equation. I would like to understand, for instance, what the number is for population. I never was able to find that. I spent a whole day trying to understand the rollback requirement and the elements that went into the equation, and I wasn't able to do it. Now, I'm a fairly smart guy, not real smart in certain things, but I wasn't able to understand the elements that went into the equation. And I guess that I would like very much to understand what we did last week, because I still really don't. And that's what I think Cynthia's looking for, an explanation of how this works. Because I think to do our job effectively, we have to have that understanding. And I think if we understand it, it would be helpful going forward.
So I understand, and Councilman Milliken, a request for lessons on the operation of property tax in South Carolina, some of which you could find from the Municipal Association, is not the same thing as developing options to introduce a property tax. But anyway, the motion on the floor is to propose options to require James Island to provide a property tax. And this would be, at different millage rates, how much revenue would be generated at different credits and so on.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the motion one more time, please? Because I thought you just said it was to raise property taxes. Perhaps I misheard.
No, it's a report on options for millages and property tax credits.
Yes, I would like that. How are we supposed
if you were to make
know?
a motion to adopt a property tax, I think that would be out of order. So it's to move forward, to develop the information, council would need to adopt a property tax so that the people of James Island would pay to the town.
It's not entirely accurate. I don't think that voting for learning about the millage options means that council wants to raise taxes. And I think at the last special meeting, it was repeated by Mr. Mayor that if you do this, you want to raise taxes. That's just kind of oversimplifying the question. So a vote in favor of this does not mean that anyone wants to raise taxes. In fact, as we agreed, and Mr. Mayor, you confirmed, the council doesn't impose a tax. The only thing council could do is to withhold some of the tax relief that we would otherwise pay on behalf of the citizens. So when you go on your blog after this and you type that town council voted to raise taxes of its residents, I hope anyone who's listening right now understands that that is false. And what we're asking for, really what Councilwoman Mignano is asking for, are options and to understand what we may do going forward. It doesn't mean what we are going to do going forward. And it certainly is a false statement to say that anyone present at this meeting intends to raise taxes, number one. Number two, we cannot raise property taxes.
Councilman Bowles, I don't know where you got the impression that we cannot raise property taxes. We most certainly can raise property taxes, and the ordinary process for doing that would be as part of the budget process. And so, and certainly the town can raise the property tax millage. That's within our authority.
Millage and
where you got the
taxes are
impression
not
that couldn't be.
millage and taxes.
Excuse me?
You said millage and taxes are not the same thing.
The question of rolling back how much is not the same as raising taxes. It's not the same. And it's an oversimplification to say that they are. And I know what's going to happen is that tomorrow, when we ask for this report now, you will repeat the same thing you just said, that the only reason we would do this is because we want to raise taxes, and that's simply not true. But I just want to make sure that everyone in the land of YouTube and the internet who may revisit this later, and also for the purposes of the minutes that we will approve at the next meeting, that we are not voting to raise taxes. We are asking for information. Period.
So town council, the information that you're seeking is different options to make the people of the town of James Island begin to write checks to the town based on their property values. That is, the town start collecting property tax. And one of the options would be to raise the millage. The current millage is 17.9. Some options would be to raise the millage. Other options would be to reduce the amount of the property tax credit the town provides. But all of these options would involve the people of the town starting to write checks to the town, taxpayers of the town writing checks to the town that they have never written before. And I call that an increase in property tax. And there's no complications or simplification. It's like, is that too simple? That's the reality. And anyway, I just don't think there's any point to this, to go forward with this unless you're interested in raising property tax. But I realize you're going to say that, no, you just need to know what property tax we would collect. So I understand. Anyway,
I watched the city council meeting, and they had an accountant give, I don't know, 4 to 16 different scenarios on different ways that it can be calculated. Various numbers were plugged in. And here's the kicker. Their council didn't vote on it. All right? Their council did not vote on it. It was an administrative decision as to what would happen. The PSD did not vote on this. Did they roll their taxes back? Did they roll it back? I don't know. It's all a mystery. It's a mystery exactly what the rules are and how we do things. And I'm really kind of confused as to why we were forced into making some sort of a vote on something that we didn't really understand. And all I'm asking for right now is an understanding. I want to understand the components that go into an equation. And no, you can't get it from Mass C. You're not going to get it from the governmental association or the manual. Everything is very opaque and obtuse. I don't know how to understand it, and that's what I'm asking for right now, is to understand it.
Councilman Milliken, then you should join me in voting down the report that Councilman Mignano has asked for, and then ask for a different kind of report on how these things are calculated. I understand how to calculate different scenarios of millages and tax credits and what that implies for property tax bills that our citizens would be sent and tax revenues we might get. I am not sure that I have a lot to say about what the state fiscal and revenue board, how they calculate our millage cap.
Mayor, I'm so sorry, but this is the second time that I'm asking for this information. I do not understand why you can't just give us the information, then it can be made public to all the citizens of James Island, and then they most certainly can give all of their voices. This is the second time I've asked for it. I don't understand why you're fighting so hard. There's nothing that can be done until the next budget meeting. Why can't you just give us the information so that we understand what it is that we're talking about?
So you want, you're speaking as if there's some information that I have that I'm holding back. You're actually requiring that I and staff spend time developing reports that the only purpose of which is to impose a property tax. And then you're saying that, yes, you want to have the public have input and give their opinion. And if they want a property tax, then you can go forward. If they don't want a property tax, then you'll oppose it. That's what you've asked for. Councilman Milliken is interested in something else. I'm not sure what Councilman Bowles is interested in exactly. I guess just having more information. But what the rollback was and how the rollback works is not at all the same thing as options to impose millage and collect property tax and collect revenue for the town from property.
The city presentation gave a number of different options with a number of different permutations on the numbers that went into the formula. I guess I don't understand why we didn't have similar types of, a similar type of presentation of the data for us so that we could understand how the formula worked and where the numbers come from and what they mean. And I think that this is something that would be useful for us going forward, especially if we have to do this again in 5 years. I don't recall having done this in 2015. I don't think that council had to approve a rollback. And that's why I'm confused over the process as well as the lack of information. I think our staff is highly qualified and I'm sure they could make a good presentation. I'm sure with your help as an economist, that would be a stellar presentation. But again, I remain confused.
Councilman Milliken, in 2015, when the town first adopted its property tax, it was in the year of the assessment. So it was based on the initial assessment. We have never had a reassessment. So this was the first reassessment. In retrospect, in hindsight, I think that we should have done the rollback administratively without going to council. At the time, I thought it was necessary. I think that the PSD's attorneys, the county auditor, and the mayor of the attorneys for the city of Charleston disagreed with that, what I thought was right, and I think that they may have the wisest course. In any case, going forward, the decision that's relevant is where we go from where we are now. And at least I understood Councilwoman Mignano's request was a report on different options for collecting property tax for people of our town, not a report on how the rollback works. The city of Charleston is a different situation than we are. The city of Charleston has a very much higher property tax millage. They provide a credit, it's a small fraction of that millage. And they collect a substantial revenue from that property tax. And I'm not sure what they explained to council, but they could explain the different options that the mayor had. The city of Charleston has much higher population growth than the town of James Island. I believe the town of James Island has had no population growth in the last 5 years, but that information could be obtained from the state office that provides the figures. And so the state office provides figures, and they calculate the inflation rate that we're allowed to use. They give us the population growth. They give us our millage cap each and every year, how much we can increase the millage. I shared with you the chart. You've seen the chart. That's all the information we have. Now, I don't really think there's a lot of value in challenging the state office and trying to figure out exactly how they calculate it, but the formula is not hard. It's the population growth plus the inflation rate. Right? What's our population growth? They get it from the census. Our census estimate was that if you have no population growth, it just comes in zero. If you have negative population growth, it comes in zero. And so they calculate these figures and give them to us. Anyway, is there any further discussion?
Could you repeat the motion that's on the floor?
To develop a report for options for millages and property tax credits. It really doesn't speak to any of the things that you've expressed concern about.
I think the property tax credits, what I was asking for was what the different percentages, like the questions you asked me last millage meeting, like 1% property tax or rollback or tax credit versus 5% versus 10%. What is a millage worth on James Island? What is that number? What would that look like? That's what I want from this report. All the questions I asked over and over last meeting, that's what I would like, we would like to see.
I understand.
Thank you.
And so the result of this would be how much property tax revenue the town would receive and what the property tax bill would be for various classes of property tax, for a car, for a house, for a boat. You know, that would be the information. So how much, and so different scenarios, what that would be. And so I understand that's, and you know, and the purpose of this is to say, well, if we had this property tax, people would pay that and the town would get so much money, right? So it's working towards implementing a property tax. If you were like me, were committed to not having a property tax, then there would be no point. Yes, Councilman Mignano.
When you post or solicit public opinion based on posts that are made on social media, I think they need to hear all of the facts and what exactly that means before you say raising taxes, raising taxes, raising taxes. Like, what does that mean? Is it $1 raise tax per year? Is it 10? Is it 500? Like, what is that? That's why this report is important.
Right. And so also, well, anyway, we're still discussing this. And so any further discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Mullinex,
No.
Mayor Woolsey,
No. Okay, so Councilwoman, well, anyway, continue on with the reports and public comment or public input.
I'm so sorry.
No, Councilwoman Mignano, please. So we'll work on that report. We'll try to get it to you, you know, as soon as we can. Anything more?
No,
Or
I'm
did
good.
you want to call for a public hearing or?
Well, how long do you think it's going to take to get the report together? I say we get the report and then we call for a public hearing after that. Or we can call for it at the next town council meeting.
Well, so one approach would be to make a motion that we have a public hearing on property taxes at the next town council meeting. Another approach would be to wait till you get the report and then decide later, you know, about when this public hearing will occur. What do you think?
I think that we should wait until we get the report. Also, I will more than likely not be able to attend the November meeting because I'm probably going to be out for surgery. So perhaps I can put a motion to ask for public opinion at the December meeting.
Is that so that you made a motion that we will ask for, we'll have a public hearing on property taxes at the December meeting? Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I would like to wait and see what the report is before we schedule a public hearing.
Okay, so I understand that. Is there a second?
I'll second Garrett, Councilman Milliken's.
Well, so, okay, so that's okay. So that motion died for lack of a second, and then we'll see where to go forward, go with this in the future, right? And then there was a report you issued a report on hospitality tax and drainage.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? There was some static.
Was another report you were interested in besides property tax millage and tax credits?
No, that was what I wanted to know about, was the tax credit rollback percentage and the millage information and what the definition of a mill was for the town of James Island.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything more?
may I interrupt for a second?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a motion on the floor to wait for the report with a move and a second.
No, ma'am, there's not. That was died for last, okay. Councilwoman's motion to have a public hearing died for lack of a second.
Okay.
Right.
There's not a you know, so there's that. So we're not, don't have anything to do with that. So Councilwoman Mignano made a motion to have a public hearing in December. I asked for a second. actually no second was forthcoming, and then Councilman Milliken made a comment, and then
Okay, it was a
then I asked
comment.
again for a second, and
wasn't a
then
motion.
no second, and they said, and there was no
Okay.
second. So we're just moving forward. There's no need to wait, to do that. So that's sort of what we automatically do, is wait. Okay, any other, so that's all. Are we done with that new business? Councilman Mignano?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next, I would ask if there's a motion to go into executive session to get legal advice regarding our contract with Dominion for tree trimming. Is there a motion to go into executive session to get legal advice regarding our contract for tree with Dominion for tree trimming?
So moved.
So Councilman Bowles made a motion. Well, actually, Councilman Mullinex made the motion. I'll count Councilman Bowles as a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Bowles,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mignano,
Yes.
Councilman Milliken,
Yes.
Councilman Molinax,
Yes.
Mayor Woolsey.
Yes. All right. So would Ashley, would you please explain what we need to do next?
Yeah, I will be emailing you all a dial-in number and conference ID. It's through Zoom, so it works a little better, hopefully. So I'll be emailing you all that now.
Do we leave this meeting?
We have to come back to this meeting so we can say no vote was taken in executive session. So I would just mute.
Okay.
Mute yourself.
Hi, Francis. Are you awake?
I was just about to get my pillow.
I figured if we got back here fast, we'd get home sooner.
Well, some of us are here at Town Hall.
Well, yeah, I'm at the office downtown, so.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
That's worse.
Yeah, that's worse. Let's see. Dan's here, Cynthia, Ashley, here, of course. All right. Let's call the return to regular session. We did not take any votes at the executive session. It's now time for closing comments and announcements. Councilman Bowles.
No, thank you.
Councilman Vignano.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Councilman Milliken.
See you when the roads get clear, if the creeks don't rise.
Okay. Councilman Mullinex.
No, not at this time.
Okay, I have none either. There'd be